Welcome to this Microbite Podcasts. This episode is brought to you by 5 Star Baits and the Science of Carp Fishing Group. Please like and subscribe to know when your next Microbite is uploaded.
To understand how a carp navigates its world is to understand a creature built for the murk. While we live in a world of sharp lines and bright light, a carp lives in a sensory soup of chemical signals, vibrations, and low-frequency hums. Here is how these freshwater titans perceive their underwater realm. 1. Vision, the wide-angle perspective. Carp have eyes positioned on the sides of their heads, granting them a nearly 360-degree field of vision. However, because their eyes don't overlap much, they lack the depth perception humans enjoy. The window. Due to light refraction, carp see the world above through a circular window. Anything outside this cone is reflected back like a mirror, helping them hide from bankside predators. Color palette. They aren't colorblind. In fact, carp can see into the ultraviolet, UV, and infrared spectrums. This is vital in silty water where standard light fails to penetrate. Low light. They possess a high density of rod cells, making them exceptional at detecting movement in the dark or under heavy weed cover. 2. Taste, the swimming tongue. If you want to understand a carp, you have to realize that for them, tasting is a full-body experience. They don't just taste with their mouths, they taste with their skin. Chemoreceptors. Carp are covered in thousands of tiny taste buds, chemoreceptors. These are most concentrated on their barbules, the whiskers, and their pectoral fins. The process: a carp can taste a food source by simply swimming past it or brushing it with a fin. This allows them to locate a single grain of corn in a massive bed of silt. Palatability. Inside the mouth, they have a highly sensitive palatal organ on the roof of the throat. This is their final filter. It sorts through gravel and debris, keeping the food and ejecting the waste through the gills. 3. The lateral line, sensing pressure. While we rely on ears, carp rely on a lateral line, a visible row of sensory scales running from head to tail. This organ detects hydrodynamic pressure. It allows the carp to feel vibrations and movement in the water from a great distance. This is how they navigate in pitch-black water without hitting obstacles. Detect the tiny thump of a lead hitting the water. Sense the approach of a predator or a clumsy angler long before any visual contact is made. 4. Hearing and the Weberian apparatus. Carp have a super hearing system called the Weberian apparatus. This is a series of small bones that connect the swim bladder to the inner ear. How it works: the swim bladder acts like a microphone, picking up sound vibrations in the water. These vibrations are amplified by the bones and sent directly to the brain. This makes carp incredibly sensitive to high-frequency sounds, such as footsteps on a hollow bank or the click of a tackle box. The sixth sense. Recent studies suggest carp may also be sensitive to electromagnetic fields, similar to sharks. This helps them navigate migratory routes and locate organisms buried deep in the lake bed by sensing the tiny electrical impulses given off by living muscle tissue. When you combine all these factors, you aren't just looking at a fish, you're looking at a highly tuned biological sensor, designed to thrive in a world where visibility is often zero. Since carp are essentially swimming sensors, beating them isn't about outsmarting their brain, it's about tricking their biology. If you understand how they perceive your gear, you can hide your presence and amplify your bait's signal. Here is a tactical guide to choosing baits and rigs based on carp sensory science. 1. Hacking the swimming tongue. Taste and smell. Because carp taste with their fins and barbules, your bait needs to create a chemical halo in the water. Solubility is key. A hard wax-coated boilie doesn't leak signals. Use baits with high water solubility, like fermented shrimp, liver powders, or alcohol-based flavors. These dissolve into the water, triggering the chemoreceptors on the carp's skin from several meters away. The silt strategy. If fishing in stinky, anaerobic silt, your bait can absorb the bad smell. Use buoyant pop-ups or washed-out baits that have been pre-soaked in clean water and attractants so they don't take on the scent of the mud. Amino acid profiles. Carp are biologically programmed to seek out specific amino acids, like L-lysine or L-arginine, found in natural prey like bloodworm. Using baits with high natural protein extracts is more effective than synthetic fruit smells. 2. Beating the wide-angle vision. A carp's eyes are designed to spot contrast and movement, especially from above. The window of stealth. When walking the bank, stay low. Because of the way light bends, Snell's law, once you are at a certain distance and height, you disappear from their overhead window and blend into the bank. Color contrast. High visibility. In murky water, fluorescent pinks and whites stand out because they reflect UV light, which carp see better than we do. Camouflage. In clear water, use fluorocarbon hook links. Its refractive index is close to that of water, making it nearly invisible to a fish looking for the glint of a line. 3. Silencing the lateral line and hearing. The lateral line picks up unnatural vibrations. A heavy lead crashing into the water sounds like a gunshot to a carp. The stealth drop. Instead of a massive 4-ounce lead, use the lightest weight possible for the distance. Consider using stone weights or textured leads that don't produce a sharp metallic clink if they hit a rock. Slack lines. Tight lines vibrate in the underwater current like a guitar string. A carp swimming past a tight line will feel the vibration on its lateral line before it ever sees the bait. Fish with slack lines to keep the line pinned to the lake bed. 4. The palatal organ trap. Rig mechanics. The palatal organ is the carp's final quality control check. It is incredibly sensitive to texture and weight. The blowback rig. When a carp realizes a food item is attached to a heavy hook, its reflex is to blow it out instantly. A blowback rig uses a small sliding ring on the hook shank, allowing the bait to be ejected while the hook stays in place. Critically balanced baits. Use a wafter, a bait that barely sinks. When a carp sucks, a natural bait flies into its mouth easily. If your bait is too heavy due to a large hook, the carp will feel the unnatural resistance and abort the take. A final tip on pre-baiting. Since carp have long-term chemical memories, baiting the same spot with a specific flavor for 3 to 4 days before you fish it bypasses their danger response. By the time you cast your rig, their brain associates that specific chemical signal with safe food.
Thank you for watching. This Microbite Podcasts is brought to you by 5 Star Baits and the Science of Carp Fishing Group. Please like and subscribe to know when your next Microbite is uploaded. Tight lines.